only 34% in this Washington Post poll say that their financial situation is better now compared to January 2025 when Trump took office. 18% say they're not as well off. 48% say that they're about the same. Meanwhile, the president is using social media. I'm not sure if this is like a teenager or like he is an 80-year-old man. So maybe this is what elderly people are doing on the internet, but it's all these memes of him dealing with the Iran war, guardian of the world, all kinds of things. I mean, Lydia, what is he doing?
I think that people want a government that works for them. And when you can't trust what's coming from your government, whether it comes from measles or when it comes from not taking shots, like you tell me, like RFK is doing
shots is causing the diarrhea disease.
Well, I think that is happening under President Trump. It's not happening under anyone else.
Well, look,
okay.
Welcome back to the channel. As we approach a critical midterm election cycle, political tensions are reaching a boiling point, and the spotlight is shining brighter than ever on the administration's performance. Recent polls reveal a stark reality: plummeting approval ratings, mounting frustration over economic unfulfillment, and heated debates over whether key campaign promises, from living costs and gas prices to trade policies, have genuinely been delivered. Today, we dive deep into the fiery discourse surrounding self-inflicted political challenges, shifting voter trust, and the fierce battle lines being drawn between Republicans and Democrats as they look toward November.
Isaiah, the president losing it on social media is not exactly a new thing, but it also, I think, as the challenges that he's facing become more and more serious, it is an issue that the president can't seem to keep his head on straight when we're facing a war, an economy that's unstable, and his party is facing an election in November.
I think ultimately the reason why his numbers are so bad is because he's not focused on anything that anybody cares about. One of the most interesting parts of that poll shows that he's down 8 points specifically with Republican voters when it comes to his handling on the economy. I mean, they look around, they see the promises that he made. He said that we'd have $1 and something gas. That never happened. He said that we would have half off our energy bills within the first year of him being in office. That never happened. All these things that he promised has not happened. And so I think people across the country are looking to say, look, this president is not delivering. He hasn't fulfilled his promises, and they want to see something different. I see that's the reality.
Yeah, on Republicans, as you point out, only 34% in this Washington Post poll say that their financial situation is better now compared to January 2025 when Trump took office. 18% say they're not as well off. 48% say that they're about the same. Meanwhile, the president is using social media. I'm not sure if this is like a teenager or like he is an 80-year-old man. So maybe this is what elderly people are doing on the internet. But it's all these memes of him dealing with the Iran war, guardian of the world, all kinds of things. I mean, Lydia, what is he doing?
He is prolific. You can give him that. Look, obviously, it's going to be up to the voters to decide in the midterms. I think that there's things he can point to, Trump accounts, Trump RX, but I think it's going to come down to gas prices as well, which have been coming down, and now we're going up a bit more than I think he would like to see. I think the interesting thing, though, is the incumbent is typically challenged as he heads into the midterms, but in this case, consider the alternative. And the Washington Post has been reporting what Trump voters are feeling, and they feel frustrated. But in the words of one gentleman, he said he's not going to vote for crazy-ass Democrats. So I think that's what it's going to come down to. People may have frustrations that they don't feel as affordability is as much of a focus, and yet consider the alternative. And some of the loudest voices in the Democratic Party now are pushing for the abolition of private property.
Can I just add to what Lydia? Can I just say something about what Lydia said, though, on the challenges? Because you said that this president is entering this midterm cycle with challenges, but a lot of these challenges are self-inflicted. I think when it comes, like he came in, he can take credit for, I think, bolstering the economy in maybe the first part of his opening year. But you look at inflation today. I mean, he was in Michigan, and before the war in Iran, gas was $2.90. And now today it is $4.22. And that is because of this war of choice. And then so you look at that, you look at the price of groceries, you look at the spread of measles, you look at a diarrhea disease, and all around the country, people are wondering, what is this president actually going to deliver?
I mean, I don't know that he's responsible for cyclospora.
I think that people want.
Let's talk about why the president's poll numbers are currently taking a nosedive, as broken down by the panel featuring commentators like Isaiah and Lydia. According to the discussion, his approval ratings are tanking, dropping 8 points specifically with Republican voters on the economy because voters feel he hasn't fulfilled major campaign promises. The panel highlights how voters were promised dirt-cheap gas and half-off energy bills within the first year, but instead face an unstable economy and surging costs. Meanwhile, rather than focusing on pressing domestic issues, the president is busy on social media posting internet memes of himself as the guardian of the world during the Iran conflict. As Lydia and Isaiah point out, whether it's dealing with online meme wars or slapping tariffs on Canada that drive up consumer prices, the administration's biggest political vulnerability right now is that their worst struggles are entirely self-inflicted. Let's continue with the video.
A government that works for them, and when you can't trust what's coming from your government, whether it comes from measles or when it comes from not taking shots, like you tell me, like
not
RFK
taking
is doing.
shots is causing the diarrhea disease.
Well, I think that is happening under President Trump. It's not happening under anyone else.
Well, look,
okay,
I think that what's obvious.
If you were really worried about disease, I mean, why weren't you worried about millions of people crossing the border who didn't have any?
I mean,
vaccine?
Well, it's not happening under Joe Biden.
Go ahead, Isaiah.
But here's the thing. You made a statement about what's crazy. I think what's crazy is when you have the president of the United States acting like Abe Simpson, going and waving his fist at the cloud on social media and putting tariffs on countries like Canada that we have free trade with. Do you support the tariffs on Canada that have raised prices for people?
If we want to talk about his social media presence, it always has been.
Do you support the tariffs?
It's going to be up to voters to decide what they want to do with midterms.
The tariffs on Canada.
Why does it matter what I support?
Why does it matter?
It's up to voters in the midterms. But I'd say with the AI thing, it really triggers a lot of people, which I think, frankly, he likes to see.
You don't want to.
I think you're right. I think people do like to see that engagement. I don't know that it's
some people like to see him tweeting out a bunch of unhinged
the
AI
base
memes. Is that
likes this.
I think you're right.
But the real question is, again, when prices are up, why is it that this president went and engaged in more tariffs on Canada when we already know that it has significant price pressures? Why did he do that, Lydia?
Because it's self-inflicted.
Look, voters are going to have to decide if they think
he's
doing enough for affordability. I'm not here to answer for
the answer
every
is that
single
there is no
policy that
reason.
he
That's what's
implements.
really crazy.
Okay.
I think that's what voters are going to react to.
It is also, I mean, it's a fair point that the reality of Trump's decision making in this moment is the root of the issue. He's lashing out at all sorts of people, reporters, he's tweeting out memes, but he refuses to stop doing the things like tariffs, like getting into a war that he promised Americans he wouldn't get into, that are causing some of the problems that he's dealing with.
Ah, the golden phrase. People want a government that works for them. It is the ultimate political greatest hit, right up there with common sense solutions and looking forward, not backward. Everyone nods along because nobody is going to raise their hand and say, you know what? I actually prefer a government that actively sabotages my day-to-day life and loses my tax dollars in a couch cushion. When politicians say works for them, the burning question is always, who is them? Because historically, them usually means either a massive faceless bureaucracy that sends you forms printed in 4-point font, or a mysterious group of corporate lobbyists who somehow get their tax breaks expedited while your local potholes turn into minor swimming pools. Notice the dramatic pause right after the line. It is designed to give you just enough time to feel a glimmer of hope before remembering the last time you had to deal with the DMV. It is a masterclass in optimistic sci-fi writing, pure political fiction, where everything runs on time, phones are answered on the first ring, and politicians actually return your emails. If a government truly worked for us, it would come with a mobile app that handles civic complaints as easily as ordering takeout, and perhaps a feature to automatically refund your taxes whenever public construction takes longer than the Roman Colosseum. Until then, we will just have to settle for the inspiring soundbite.
With right now.
I think that if the president was having this negative impact across the entire country, then Democrats would be doing a lot better as the opposition party.
We've won pretty much every special election there is.
Yeah, we're doing pretty good.
We won
The current
Kentucky,
generic
we won
ballots,
Louisiana, Trump's own state house district has been won by a Democrat. That's pretty successful, I would say.
According to the last Reuters poll, Democrats consistently...
I'm not talking about polls, I'm talking about election results.
I'm talking about polls because we're getting closer to the midterms.
We're talking about election results.
We're talking about the generic congressional ballot, as my point was. If the president is so detrimental to everything, I should see the Democrats skyrocketing in all of the polls.
He's losing almost every special election there is.
We talked about this last week. The recent poll showed that Democrats have overtaken Republicans in terms of who Americans trust to deal with the economy.
Strangely, the Reuters poll that I've got right here doesn't say that.
Look, not every poll is the same.
Well, then saying we're fighting one
But my point is, there are some polls showing that Trump is losing ground on key issues, especially on the economy, which is typically something that Republicans do well on. When you look at his approval rating on issues from the economy to Iran to trade to immigration, he's underwater on all of those issues.
So I should expect to see voters trusting Democrats over Republicans, and I'm not seeing that.
You are seeing that. You are seeing that in polls.
Again,
why we won in Georgia, why we won in Texas, why we won in Kentucky, all across this country. Voters are choosing Democratic candidates in special elections.
This is the classic political parlor game. Is Donald Trump's decision-making a liability, or is it just a perpetual motion machine of chaos that somehow keeps churning? When you hear this question dropped into a debate or panel, it immediately splits the room into two entirely different parallel universes. In Universe A, every unpredictable tweet, off-the-cuff remark, and sudden policy shift is viewed as a five-dimensional chess move that shatters the political establishment. In Universe B, it is viewed as a toddler handing a loaded fire extinguisher to a dog. The brilliant part about this question is that nobody ever answers it with a simple yes or no. Instead, you get a masterclass in verbal gymnastics. Supporters will look you dead in the eye and call it disruptive leadership and authentic business acumen, while critics will sigh heavily and call it an existential threat to democratic norms wrapped in a reality television format. Ultimately, the beauty of the Trump decision-making matrix is that it never leaves room for boredom. Whether you think it is a liability or a superpower, you are guaranteed to have strong opinions about it while staring blankly at your television screen, wondering how politics got so weird.
The president seems to be extremely fixated on this. I mean, you could argue maybe Democrats aren't paying enough attention. Well, Trump is focused. Right. He talks about it virtually every day. He thinks it's the number one issue, curtailing mail-in voting, changing the way states conduct their elections. Why is that the number one issue to him and not actual policy issues that matter to voters, like the economy, like cost of living?
Well, I disagree with the framing of that. I think he is concerned about all of that, but I don't think you have to go back to 2018 or even 2020. I think you have to go back to June with what we saw in the LA mayor's race, where Spencer Pratt was leading, and then weeks after the election.
Oh, here they go again.
Okay. Well, let's see.
Hold on a second. Just to be clear, I know there's a lot of polling going on. But that was a multi-way race in which Spencer Pratt was not leading.
Right.
He was actually.
He lost.
Hold on.
Absolutely.
No.
He lost.
Let me just disabuse you of this notion. Yeah. He was running against two liberals who each had a share of the vote that, if you add them together, were greater than his share of the vote. That is not leading.
I have a question.
That is not how this works.
How is it possible
Spencer
that
Pratt,
Florida
in that same state, the Republican who was on the ballot for governor proceeded to the runoff. So again, there is zero evidence.
It's interesting how it works.
There is zero evidence that anything went wrong. I can't even believe you would raise this. There's no evidence.
Why won't you bring a case to court then? If you think that something was bad,
you brought it up.
So first of all, I think
you brought it up, so you got to
bring it up. I would bring it up 100 times more.
Proof. Why is your wild claim?
I just want to say,
not gone to court about this.
Florida is able to count 10 million ballots and get those election results out the same night. Why can't LA and all these other Democrat states do it? There is something shady about it. There are a lot of questions that other people have. I think elections should be so transparent, no one has any questions about it.
I do think he doesn't want to answer that question. There's a reason. reason for that, though.
I don't know why Spencer Pratt hasn't
because there was nothing shady that was going on. That's why he didn't do it.
Maybe he thinks the legal system is broken. He won't get a fair trial.
That sounds like Cope.
I think you're actually illustrating. I think you're illustrating the party's vulnerability here. To the extent you guys are talking about, we have to do something about all these ballots. The way that I would talk about that if I was a national Democratic leader is, why are they afraid of the American people? Why are they afraid of them casting their ballots? That is what ends up happening if Republicans keep talking about people voting in what has become a pretty conventional way as something potentially dangerous.
Diving into the eternal crusade against the United States Postal Service. When mail-in ballots are declared the absolute #1 issue facing the nation, you have to admire the sheer tactical genius of turning paper envelopes into public enemy #1. Forget inflation, global conflicts, or the price of groceries. Nothing quite captures the American imagination like a blue collection box down the street. It is a brilliant psychological pivot. Why worry about complex economic policy when you can channel all that energy into deeply suspicious thoughts about how a piece of cardstock travels from your kitchen table to a local municipal building? The logic here is operating on a completely different plane of reality. The underlying theory seems to be that voting should involve a grueling obstacle course, standing in the rain for 3 hours, wrestling with ancient voting machines, and proving your dedication to democracy through pure physical endurance. The moment you make voting as convenient as paying an electric bill online or dropping a birthday card in the mail, apparently the entire fabric of civilization begins to unravel. Of course, the punchline is that campaigns on both sides spend months telling voters to utilize mail-in voting, only for the candidate to turn around and treat the postal carrier like an international spy ring. It is political theater at its finest, turning a routine logistical convenience into an apocalyptic battle for the soul of the republic, all while everyone sits at home waiting for their packages to arrive anyway. Thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe.